Hey guys, welcome back to DCS World. I'm Spudknocker, as always. And today we're going to take a look at a topic that vexes many DCS World pilots, air-to-air refueling. Now this video is not going to go over the switchology of how to extend a refueling probe or how to contact the tanker. Instead, this video is going to go over tips and tricks to help you get there in any airframe you choose. For today, we will be using the AV-8B Harrier from Rosbaum and the FA-18C Hornet from Eagle Dynamics as our examples, and the aircraft that's going to be in the footage of this video. However, these principles apply to all the aircraft here in DCS World. My inspiration for making this video was the numerous comments on my Wingman Finder multiplayer videos asking the basic question, collectively, "That's amazing. How can I do that? I get so frustrated when I try it." So today I hope I can give you some answers to help answer that question and help make air-to-air refueling a little less intimidating and a lot less frustrating. First thing I would say is you need to be intimately familiar with the aircraft you've chosen, with both the switchology of the cockpit and the way she handles in a variety of conditions and situations. Being as familiar as possible with the aircraft will help you tremendously when it comes to tackling a procedure as dynamic and complex as air-to-air refueling. So when you pick up your shiny new Tomcat in a couple months here, or whenever it's released, first thing you do should not be air-to-air refueling. You need to get used to her, get used to all the switchology, and then maybe hop over to some air-to-air refueling. Second point I'd like to make is air-to-air refueling is a lot like baseball. It's 90% mental and 10% physical. As a lifelong devotee to the Church of Baseball, I believe that this is a good analogy for air-to-air refueling. You're going to fail, and you're going to fail a lot. When you first get started trying to learn air-to-air refueling here in DCS World. But, like any hitter does after a strikeout, you shake it off, you get your head in the right space, and you get right back up there for the next at bat. And when you finally do get it right, you keep that knowledge that you can do it, and you now have the confidence to know that you can do it even under not so ideal circumstances, like say with a battle damaged aircraft, far away from home plate, no pun intended. One thing that I learned when I played baseball competitively that translates directly to aviation and air-to-air refueling in DCS World particularly is that relaxed muscles are fast muscles and precise muscles. Tense and anxious muscles are slow and jerky. Most sim pilots that I know, especially ones new to the hobby, tend to have a death grip on their throttle and stick, and only double down on this when the stress and frustration and anxiety of air-to-air refueling in DCS World takes its toll. It's supposed to be fun, guys. It's not supposed to be stressing. You need to force yourself to relax, stay loose, and flow with the controls. Stay in tune with your aircraft and listen to what her flight model is telling you. In aviation, this is called using fingertip pressure. Use your fingertips to manipulate the throttle and stick, at least until you can get to the point where you're no longer holding onto the stick and throttle for dear life. So stay relaxed, feel the airplane and the stick, and go with the flow of what your airplane and the flight path of the tanker and the drogue are telling you. A good analogy for this, if you're a skier or a boarder, is if you're tense and you fight the snow and you fight your skis, you're going to eat it every time. If you're relaxed and you're feeling the board and you're flowing with the snow, you're going to carve up the face of the mountain. The same goes for air-to-air refueling. If you fight the basket and you fight the tanker, you will fail every single time. But if you go with the flow and go with the basket and you go with the tanker and you're feeling it, you're going to get it every time. Now I know that sounds a little strange, but just getting into that mindset really helps, guys. Take for instance this example here where I get into a pretty bad pilot-induced oscillation and then I miss the drogue and I say, oh boy, and I am a little frustrated, but I fall back a little and I relax. I loosen my grip. I get my head in the right space. I dampen out that oscillation before it really gets me into trouble, and then I nail it on the second try. That's the kind of the idea we're looking for here. You get frustrated, you relax, and then you nail it. Now, a lot of guides on YouTube and written guides in places like Hoggit or the ED forums will tell you to use a fixed position on the tanker to line yourself up and position yourself with the basket of the jet. Like say putting the heading carrot 2 feet from the right of the base of the hose for the drogue. Something of that nature. I respectfully disagree with this, because it locks you into a certain part of the tanker's airframe, and it makes it very hard to say shift sides of a KC-130 or an IL-78 from the left drogue to the right-hand drogue, or change tanker types from, say, a Midas to a Hercules to a Viking. And if you look really closely in the Wingman Finder videos that I make, you can see some of the pilots that we fly with, no offense to them at all. You can see that sometimes they do have trouble with being on the right-hand side of the tanker versus the left-hand side. Instead, I recommend focusing on the position of the basket relative to your canopy, where the basket is supposed to be in relation to my jet, rather than where my jet is supposed to be in relation to a very certain spot on, say, the KC-130. This allows you to more easily change tanker aircraft and circles us back around to that earlier statement of knowing your aircraft very well, whether it's the Hornet, the Harrier, the Fulcrum, or the upcoming Tomcat. However, we also at the same time don't want to be too focused on the basket itself. If we get target fixation on the basket, this can lead us into what's called chasing the basket, where we are trying to fly our probe into the basket instead of positioning our aircraft in the proper spot to where our probe naturally just slides right on into the drogue. This really highlights the dynamic nature of air-to-air refueling, where we want to use the drogue to get into the right position, but we don't want to fixate on it. We want to fly in formation with the tanker, but we don't want to fixate on a certain spot of the tanker. It's really about finding the right balance between all the different metrics telling you where you need to be. The instruments in your cockpit, your HUD, the drogue, the tanker, and lots of other things. Circling back around to throttle and stick control now, flying in formation is very tricky, and air-to-air refueling is simply flying in formation in a particular spot. So I recommend getting very comfortable with formation flying before attempting air-to-air refueling. Here in DCS World and all sims, we are unfortunately at a major disadvantage when it comes to formation flying, and thus air-to-air refueling. Because we cannot feel the acceleration and deceleration of our aircraft, similarly we cannot feel the yaw and roll and push inputs either, and thus we must rely on our sense of sight only, which is unfortunately one of our easiest senses to fool or to misinterpret something. So in DCS World, when formation flying, we have to arguably be even more precise in our corrections than you would have to be in the real world in order to pull off air-to-air refueling or staying in a perfect formation with your wingman. For throttle inputs, we want to smoothly yet quickly stroke the throttle, which means if we're behind the tanker, ready to slide our probe into the drogue, and we need to increase our speed by say 1 to 2 knots, we want to push our throttle up smoothly, then immediately return the throttle to the starting position in order to not get too fast or continue that acceleration for too long. Similarly, once we are in the basket receiving fuel, we need to decrease our speed in order to not push too close to the tanker, thus separating us from the drogue or potentially endangering ourselves and the tanker with a collision. So we want to do that, but in reverse. Smoothly but quickly stroke the throttle down and return it to the starting position to lose a knot or two of airspeed and keep pace with that tanker. The very same idea applies when using the stick to line up into that correct position for contact with the tanker. We want to smoothly make corrections and then immediately counter-correct, just like we did with our throttle. If I need to slide left, I roll the aircraft to the left. Then, to avoid drifting too far left, I immediately roll right to cancel out that drift. This is why it's so immensely important for DCS pilots to remain as calm and relaxed as possible and keep a light of grip on the throttle and stick as possible, because tense, jerky movements on the stick will lead to over-corrections that then snowball into pilot-induced oscillations that will make it impossible to make contact with the tanker and thus increase the pilot's frustrations and death grip on the throttle and stick, snowballing into ever worse overcorrections and oscillations. And this is why people get so frustrated with air-to-air refueling, is because you're making corrections, you're doing the right things, but everything is just too much. And that's because you're getting too hyped up, you're getting over-amped, and you're getting over-frustrated, and it's just not going well. If you find yourself in this situation, the best thing you can do is take a break. Slide back into formation, let your wingman have a go at it, while you practice just flying in formation calmly with the tanker. Take some deep breaths, relax, loosen that grip on the throttle and stick, and talk to your wingman, maybe tell a joke. I hope you're seeing now why I said earlier it's 90% mental, 10% physical here. It's about playing that mental game with yourself to allow yourself to be as smooth as possible. Roger that. And after all, guys, it's a game. It's what we love to do. It's supposed to be fun, right? In my opinion, the best way to practice air-to-air refueling is to fly a mission with air-to-air refueling as a component of that mission, not the goal of that mission. Hitting and potentially striking out or hitting a home run is only a small part of baseball. We still have to play in the field, we still have to field ground balls and run down fly balls and hold runners on and 100 other things. Similarly, DCS is not just air-to-air refueling, but rather a component of it. So I really recommend flying a mission where you use all your other skills that you have down pat. Taking off, shooting your gun, firing some AMRAAMs at some helpless MiGs, dropping some bombs on an unsuspecting convoy. Incorporate air-to-air refueling as a component of that mission so that you get into it with positive feelings about your flying skills and abilities before you try the really hard thing. Flying an instant action mission where your only goal is to get the thing and the thing to get some of the go juice is just going to make you nervous, put pressure on yourself to get it right, no matter what, just so that you know how to do it, so that when you fly with your friends next, you won't get into a frustrating situation, and it just makes you tense and jerky, and you make overcorrections that snowball into more tenseness and worse jerkiness. So, in summary, relax, fly a mission, do all the stuff you know how to do very well, and then try the hard thing on the way home, back to home plate. No pun intended again. So I really hope my advice in this video helps you guys out, and if you like the video, please give me a like and a subscribe. I would very much appreciate that. And remember to have fun, guys. It's not supposed to be frustrating, it's supposed to be fun. and enjoy this amazing product, DCS World. Thanks a lot, guys.